Howdy, everybody. Before we start the show, I just wanted you to know that there was a small technical difficulty on this one. Long story short, I selected the wrong microphone on my end. We've been making constant improvements, have a new system in place. I got a new computer, did all these things. I've been tweaking, trying to get everything just right as we've continued to improve. And so it's not that big a deal. It's not unlistenable or anything. Our wonderful editor Matt McCool went through and ran it through extra filters and did what he could with it to make it different. But I'm not going to sound as good as Ramin in this full episode when it starts. So I thought I would mention it. Because one, you might be a new listener and you might be like, is this what it always sounds like? No. And in fact, you'll be able to hear the difference between us probably, but that's even after doing a lot more stuff than a lot of podcasts don't even do. So if anything, it will just make you appreciate all the extra effort that we put into this, hopefully. And hopefully it's not too distracting. But I also just wanted to mention that. And if there's anything that you ever do notice, not this particular thing that I already mentioned on this episode, but in future episodes going forward, if there's ever a thing like, hey, the audio doesn't play on the left side of my car on your podcast only. Believe it or not, like stuff like that happens sometimes. And we don't test this on every app and every situation imaginable. So we really, really do value feedback like that. You're not annoying us or pestering us or anything with stuff like that. We love it. We love to be constantly improving and perfecting the quality of this show. So thank you for all of your support on Patreon. That's helped. We've been using the funds from that to pay for more editing time, to upgrade some equipment and everything like that, and we'll continue to do so. I just flubbed a thing, was using a new system, hit a wrong button, didn't realize it, and found out afterwards. But it's a great conversation and a fun episode nonetheless, so enjoy.
Greetings, sports fans. It's time for Shane to actually do the intro instead of me. What were you going to say?
Introducing my intro. We should discuss ahead of time who does it first, but then we wouldn't have fun moments like this. I was going to say, welcome voids, visionaries, honeys, and Comante de Buffons, and maybe one day lunatics as well. This is Mind Under Matter, and we're trying a new thing today. We keep on experimenting. I feel like a lot of listeners would be in agreement if we claimed that the show has improved a bit over time. We started good. We're only getting stronger. We got a whole hair and makeup department. That's not totally true, but video, audio, a lot better. And one of the cool things is our Patreon has been building, and we're getting to put all the cool stuff on there that only Patreon people get to hear, like Mind Under Art. However, today you guys get to hear suggestions from Patreon. So I thought it might be a fun idea to once a month, so one out of every 4 episodes, maybe we will do episodes where we take suggestions from Patreon fans as to what to talk about. So we didn't really plan too much ahead of time. We chatted this out for like 3 minutes before we started, and we picked a couple fun suggestions. And so the first one, Ramin, is from you can see I really had this together. This is from Alex on Patreon.
Alex, it took us 5 minutes to come up with that. From where was Alex?
Well, Well, we had Jacob Worley wrote, Mindy, Mike Ryan, Madison Hunter, Nathan Armstrong, Alex, The Crippler, Red Pearl, Drew Bartlett, D, and Dus. And we're going to probably get to 2 of them today. We'll see. So Alex said, hey guys, I bought Behave by Robert Sapolsky. Nice. I'd never heard of him before, but Shane sold me. Which, first of all, Behave's a rough one to start with. It's like the one book on a desert island. Like, if you read it and just keep reading it, you'll know more about life than any other book could deliver to you. But it's challenging. And he has like a light one, like a primate's memoir, which is autobiographical and about his being a primatologist and his many travels and the interesting life that he has led. It's very, very good. But this, Alex heard me talking about why zebras don't get ulcers and said he couldn't find it, which must have been at an actual physical bookstore. So thanks, Alex, for going to yay bookstores.
Yay.
And anyway, I would love fiction and non-fiction suggestions from both of you. It's not really a major topic, just something that would be interesting. Too easy.
No worries.
So I don't read fiction at all, but you're a fiction reader.
Me? Oh yeah. I've read over a dozen books of fiction before. I read. I go through phases where I do get into reading, and then some books you don't finish, some of them you finish but you don't remember 5 years later, and some of them stick with you for a long time. And that's what we're gonna try to talk about today, because we didn't even look at our bookshelves before recording this. We're like, yeah, we'll just answer questions, and if it asks us about books or something, we'll just pull it from the dome, or make a book report where you didn't read the book and you're just standing in front of the class making stuff up very vaguely. It's like The Catcher in the Rye is about a group of characters who overcome challenges that they face throughout the period of a span of time.
Catcher in the Rye was one of the few books that I actually read in school. I avoided reading through almost all of school. I didn't like reading in front of people in grade school. I think in 4th grade I got some poor reading score or whatever, and then just decided I didn't like reading. And I think, and so I did the cheating on book reports thing. And Catcher in the Rye I remember reading, actually. And then I think I read Animal Farm as well. And then I read, in my early 20s, I read 1984 because someone insisted that I do, and that's like the extent of the fiction books that I've read. I think there's been a couple others, and I've listened to a couple on audiobooks, but I just don't enjoy it that much.
Because you don't feel like you're actually learning about the real world we live in. It's like you're thinking about it someone's imagination. But I think I just read not for entertainment and that it's Bravo or E or something, but entertainment, and that if it's interesting you, it doesn't matter if it took place in the world of this physics or this made up physics that this one nerd made up in the 70s or even in the 20s or something. And oftentimes that stuff comes true. It's, the fiction becomes nonfiction because of the fiction, and not that they're all idea fictions like we were talking about on the other episode that maybe it comes out after this one. So the future episode that talks about McDonald's or something being a fiction, but also you can make
no, they just heard that episode last week.
Okay, good.
Yeah. There's a good non-fiction, although plenty of speculation. Machio Kaku wrote this book, Physics of the Impossible, which is so he's
the like science show guy where they're like, hey, could you talk about UFOs for a bit and also have a doctorate? He's like, yes, you see, there could possibly be dozens of alien species we don't know anything about, like type 6 civilizations which have starcraft, or type 7 which would have warp drives, or perhaps even type 8 civilizations of aliens. And you're like, wait a minute, are there any of these aliens? Well, no, this is all speculative, but there's type 9 civilization.
That was a very good impression of Machio Kaku that you just whipped up. That was not bad. Wow.
Oh, I haven't heard him.
Impressed.
I haven't heard him talk in a while. Like I'm wondering if that's even close. But he does talk about. He is one of the go-to science educator guys. You've got Neil deGrasse Tyson, Brian Greene, Bill Nye is from '90s and still like holds like medium to low relevance in terms of like what he was to culture before that, because I mean that's what happens to everyone. You don't keep up the number one spot forever, but he's still doing that, I think. And Machio Kaku, and I think that's it. Who else is a oh, that's bad. Is there any women? Do I just not know them? Maybe that's because I'm prescient. They're keeping the women out of STEM. It's not because I don't know the names, because I'm misogynist. It's because the society is, and now the blame is off of me. That felt good to throw that blame right out of my being. There. Good. I'm very excellent ally at everything.
Yes, you are. I mean, I will say that the truth of the Here We Are podcast, where I've had roughly 50%. I mean, if you counted every one, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm 5% off one way or another. But I've had roughly 50% females and 50% men on Here We Are, and I will say it takes a bit more effort to include 50% females, because guys just more likely jump at the chance. They just like attention a bit more. It's just easier. Especially stand-up science, when I did it live. And I mean, anyone could ask my female assistant who would help me with much of the booking. It's a lot of extra effort to get, I would try to have a male and female on each show. And it was a lot of extra effort to get the female to sign up to like stand in front of a crowd of people in like a half comedy, half science show. But which really does make a fair amount of evolutionary sense if you look at life through the lens of like male peacock feathers and that sort of thing, as I sometimes like to put that lens on. But all that is to say is that there might be some of that, but then there's also there's a history of science when sometimes people are like, oh, men invented everything. Well, there's a lot of like, speaking
it's
of
normally
books,
the guy's wife who never got the credit, and then you're just like, well,
exactly.
He invented these 1,000 things and then she fixed it or something. That's overgeneralization, of course, but sometimes there's the forgotten behind the scenes.
It happens. A person that discovered the first vaccine ever during smallpox. I don't remember her name, but I'm speaking.
You don't
of
believe
books,
in that crap,
this
do
is
you?
what I was.
Vaccine? No, we won't even go into that. You believe in the smallpox vaccine? You stupid idiot.
That's the funny thing that I'm gonna start doing that with everything. Just like a doctor says I'm due for a tetanus shot. Like, yeah, it sounds like something the globalists would say. Just I like coming up with new conspiracies, like when they say we're having a high tick season. Like that's Bill Gates for sure. And like recommendations to put sleeves on when you're in the woods. Like they're trying to put arm prisons on us. And
it reminds me of. All right, go ahead. What's the tweet?
It was something like Go ahead and tuck your pants into your socks, you bunch of sheeple. But there's
wait, what's that mean though? Not the sheeple part, but tuck your pants into your socks.
That's what they recommend if you're trying to be super cautious.
Oh.
You tuck your pants into your socks so that it keeps like ticks out or some shit like that. I don't know. No one ever does it. But yeah, it is. I was making up a character that was like, well, they don't want you to go into the woods because then you're off the grid and you're free, and they don't want you to be free, so they're trying to scare you with tick propaganda, and just making up new conspiracies. But then I'm like, I've been obsessing about conspiracy theorists for a solid 15 months, and I think I think I need to give myself a break.
That's a tweet or like a joke you bring up in the context of a podcast. But if you were to actually sit down by yourself and be like, I'm going to create this new imaginary world with this character or something, it's like, forget about it.
Yeah, but this speaking of books that we're reading, I had this woman on my podcast at the start of COVID, Carrie Nixon. She has this book coming out. At the time I'm recording this, it's not out yet, but I think it's out when it does. By the time you're listening, it's called Quarantine Life from Cholera to COVID-19. Took a stand-up paddleboard out, found a little island today, and had this book in my dry bag. Again, I found one that was...
Just making sure you're not...
That I could do.
You know how stand-up, sometimes it's like... Yeah, like yesterday I was at CVS and they've been telling the joke for like 12 years.
No,
like, you were at CVS every day?
My summer mission is to find an island that I...
A different one? Or was that the same island that you'd claimed?
It was a different one.
Oh, hell yeah.
No, the one yesterday was a dud.
What did the birds think of this island?
The birds were okay with this island, but it was a little... There was too much boat traffic. It's a little noisier here, a little too close to the city. I'm looking for something away from everything. So there's a few other islands in the place I was at yesterday that I'm going to go back and explore. But it was lovely. So I'm trying to find a little office out on an island where I'm all by myself to do my reading and writing. But in this book, there's I read the first chapter of it like months ago. So excuse me for not remembering. But the smallpox vaccine was... I hope I didn't talk about this on the show already, but it was this woman in Europe heard about some like small developed or like third world country or whatever, or at least by their standards, that a country that was looked down on by the Europeans at the time of smallpox wasn't having much smallpox. So she went, an anthropologist, I think she was an anthropologist, went and checked it out, found out that they were doing this weird process where they would take like pus from people that had smallpox, open up people's veins and put a little bit of it in there. And she put it was basically like these tribes that had stumbled on the idea of inoculating yourself basically a vaccine before there was such a thing. Then she went back to report that, and there was lots of problems with that. One, they looked down on like these savages, and two, I feel like I have talked about this before. Oh well,
on this show,
yeah, but that's okay. And two, she was a woman, so they were just like, women don't do science. And,
yeah, I think I remember this now.
And then they added a few things. They made some advancements with it, and then like eventually rebranded it, and some dude came out with it, and then they're like, okay, let's we have a solution. It still took like 70 years for the smallpox vaccine to be widely accepted by the public, and because they also they figured out that cowpox could I'm forgetting the whole history, but anyway, so there was a lot of times in which females made a lot of like mathematical advances in math, but were working under the wing of their husband or whatever else.
So it's like kind of half, isn't it? Like you were talking about, the men perform more because of the peacock thing. Like they want to like show off more, be the center of attention, the egoist, the mansplainer, etc. But it's not just that, but also like the women that do want to do that, they have an extra like barrier of the lens in which they're always sexualized and whatnot and seen as less capable. So that's probably another one.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe they'll start going the other way eventually, or something. I mean, I think that the field of science will benefit greatly from diversity of opinions. But I was thinking about in terms of conspiracy stuff. I was thinking today about the things that when people come to I'll post something about vaccines on Facebook just to see if there's new conspiracies floating around out there, or like what the new ones that they're buying into, because they can't be. Every time a conspiracy theorist is like, when a thing doesn't come true, that's just more evidence of how sneaky there is and how layered this plan is. And so but the most common thing that I get from the psychedelic fans that are upset that I'm for vaccines.
You and Duncan, like you guys get extra special attention because you're supposed to be like, how come you don't see this? You do psychedelics, you know the truth of the universe. How do you not see what's going on in front of you? So like to you and Duncan, it just drives them crazy, and you're like, I'm sorry, it's just it's not the way you think it is. So you get more of that.
I get a lot of that, and sometimes it's poor guy, you know. He was smart for a while and then like lost his mind, and now he believes in modern medicine. I guess he's went completely crazy. And so I get lots of that like, oh, well, I guess too many psychedelics, doesn't believe in the shape-shifting lizard people. Poor guy.
Yeah.
That's a fun one that I get. So anyway, but back to books. There was, Machio Kaku's book, The Physics of the Impossible, is broke into 3 parts, and it's all taking sci-fi stuff. When you talked about what were the levels, the stages or whatever, that was actually accurate. What's he call them?
The types of civilization, right? Like a type 1 civilization, Type 4 is spacefaring. Currently, we can reach our outer orbit, or we can send a probe to Mars or even Europa, but we cannot send ourselves. Now, a Type 4 civilization would not only be able to send themselves, they would be able to send their families. They would be able to go on vacations. They would be able to explore the galaxy. And that is where we are on the cusp of. We are on the cusp of either destroying ourselves or becoming a Type 4 spacefaring civilization, which I have drawn a model of a potential spacecraft that we could use. This would be called the Machio for the Type 4 civilization, in which we have to look forward to.
I think. Boy, it's been a long time since I read that book. I think I read it when it first came out 15 years ago or something. But I think Type 1 is, using like wood, stuff like that, being able to build a fire, building some structures. And then Type 2 is like mining the earth and using resources. And then
is agriculture a stage?
I feel like it is. I'm having trouble remembering now. All I know is I think Type 4 is like, now you can yield the power of the sun rather than this indirect way. Now you're flying through space and you can just scoop up a sun to fill up, and that powers your spaceship. That's the Machio level 4 or whatever. But the physics of the impossible is broken up really nicely. It takes all the Star Trek, whatever other sci-fi things, and it breaks it into 3 parts, which is, here's what's probably going to happen in the next 100 years. So they'll take something like invisibility and they'll be like, well, here's where camouflage is at. Here's where it could get to. Here's what it would take to be kind of invisible. And some of it's as chintzy as like having if I had a TV screen, if I was wearing a TV screen right now and had like a camera on my back, so it would look like you're looking at the background kind of. So it's not perfect, but he kind of scales it up from, well, here's where you would start. And then the second part of the book is all stuff that here's what's possible according to the laws of physics as we know them. We're not going to get there in the next 100 years, or it's exceptionally unlikely. But given enough time, certainly some civilization or us in the future, and with enough power or whatever else could make this happen. And then part 3 is here's what's impossible according to the laws of physics as we know them, and this is why, like perpetual motion.
Because of entropy.
They don't think that there's just, it's according to the laws of physics as we know it now, there is simply not possible by any civilization. Doesn't matter what technology you develop, how much power or resources you have, or anything else. So that's a
Nassim Haramein thinks it's at the center of every proton, and that every proton is a mini black hole that has infinite energy. But not just him. There's like all these 0 point energy things. There's a whole documentary about it called Thrive, and like how it's a toroidal like feedback loop of infinite energy if we could just tap into it. But then when I talk to people who are actually like closer to actually looking at all those patents all day, like they're like, yeah, it's kind of impossible. And what they're showing you is it's a great story, but that one missing puzzle piece, or whatever metaphor that applies, it's not a puzzle piece metaphor maybe that they're missing, but if you're 99% there and you don't have that last part, it's no completion.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's my understanding that perpetual motion is kind of like the physics version of snake oil. If someone's claiming like, this thing could maybe, I discovered a way to make perpetual motion possible. It's kind of like chiropractors use this terrain theory. It's a theory that happened before germ theory, which is that you don't diseases from contagion from like drinking bad water or anything else. You get diseases because there's something wrong with your health, simply because you aren't eating right or whatever else, or don't have the right set of genes, and then like just a thing goes off in you, and that's how you get sick. And so chiropractors dig through the archives to find fancy words that no one will call them out on, or other people doing similar things. And they say like, oh, your brain, the reason you get sick is because your brain can't signal to your immune system because your spine is out of balance. And so let me make a few adjustments. And so, yeah, don't take virology advice from your glorified masseuse, is the lesson in that story.
Maybe there are some good ones though. Like you never know.
Oh yeah.
But
there's good chiropractors.
I've never believed in it myself. Like just because I've had back issues since I was about 18, so that's like more than half my life coming up, and it's still never appealed to me, just because I'm so afraid of the like, well, you'll have to just go back forever. And even if they're like, well, my guy doesn't do that, I don't trust it yet. And sorry if you're a chiropractor, and sorry if you're a firm believer in the 0 point energy, which I really want 0 point energy to be true more than anyone. It's so cool, and it makes you feel magical. Like when you watch the documentaries, you're like, I'm made of pure 0 point energy. Consciousness is magical, and this is and it gets you in that state. But then when it comes time to turn in your homework, you're like, oh, I was just kind of tripping last night on this documentary I saw, and I can't deliver 0 point energy. I don't even I can barely give you energy with like when I eat food and like caffeine and stuff. Even then I barely have energy, and you want me to tell you 0 point energy?
What's wrong with your back?
Oh, I like was I heard it doing deadlifts, I ruptured a disc in my spine, an L5-S1 herniated disc, and a little bit of L3, L4. So I was bedridden for months and months, and then I could finally walk while sitting on
you?
About 17 or 18, I think, was when I first went to college. So that sucked as my first year. I almost dropped out for a year, but I plowed through it, and like my dad would help me like make sure I studied and stuff because I was bedridden, so I couldn't hide. He like would just like make sure I got the necessary stuff done, and I pulled out of like F and brought it all the way up to like really low C's, and that was like a huge triumph of like, holy crap, I did it. I got out of the pit with the C's. And then but anyway,
being bedridden.
Yeah, and it healed up for like a while, but it's like iffy. It's like every few years you'll have a thing. It's like, oh, I gotta not lift anything for 2 weeks. So it's not a real problem anymore, but I figure every few months or like yearly there's like something where it's a little worse than normal.
Were you athletic before that?
No,
you like
not like
you were just...
not like like I'm all right. I would do all right in a game of pickup basketball, depending who's playing there. Soccer I played, but not past early to mid high school. Like that's when the athletics kind of stopped, and it all just became rec center stuff. And it was more about weightlifting. It was more about the solo journey of like, oh, I just want to like feel in good shape. And the team sports too, it like can get so if you're with like really egoic people, which athletes like dudes in their 16, 17 years old or even 12 years old, of course they're going to be really competitive and stuff. And if you're not one of the best, it can kind of be like, oh, I don't feel like I have enough control in this thing. Like I'm just playing defense and soccer, and it's mostly like waiting for something to happen, and then you run to the side, you run to that side, and if you don't love it, you're not going to keep doing it through high school when you've got other stuff.
Yeah, I was fine enough at not organized basketball, just street ball, and organized basketball I just really fell apart. And anything with, oddly enough, anything with an audience, I just fell apart. I couldn't handle it at all. Yeah.
I liked audience. I liked orchestra. Maybe it's because I wanted to be more of a music arts sort of guy, because I recognized early, like, I'm not going to be an athlete. Like, I'm already, like, our school has a Division 5 team, and I can't even play on the Division 5 team of this little school. So what are the odds I'll actually become an athlete? So you're like, okay, cross that one out, and now I'm more interested in this bullshit.
Do you so you still have back pain sometimes?
Yeah.
It's kind of I feel like with ever since my injury, I've always felt like, oh, all right, this is a window into aging. This is just what just more of this will continue to happen. And you had that when you were like 17. Wow, because I broke bones and stuff my whole life, or stitches or whatever, but always just stuff that didn't, healed right up really quickly and didn't impact my life in a negative way, really.
It actually made me, it made me more, I don't know. I took it better than after the first like bout of being depressed with it. You kind of learn to accept it and have a good attitude towards it. And man, I forgot what there was a point to that sentence, but it's gone now. We got to keep it moving.
You get down with kratom still sometimes?
Oh, just like occasional pediatric dose. It doesn't really do much. It's like pretty.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it doesn't. And I guess that's good. You don't want to take opiates regularly and like have a dependency on opiates that has to just keep going up and up and up. But it's like more of a, it stops, maybe it's good that, it just kind of stops the really bad pain, but it doesn't give you euphoria or anything like that. Maybe that's what I was saying. It doesn't give you euphoria the way that the...
I get euphoria from it.
Oh, from kratom? Which one?
I don't know.
Do you take a lot of it?
Well, no. I've gone in streaks. With my injury, I took a fair amount toward the end.
And it's
I remember
really legal now. Like you hear it on even Adam Carolla podcast has ads for it. I was looking up coupon codes.
I think the FDA is trying to crack down on it, actually,
really?
Which could be unfortunate for a lot of people.
I was looking for coupon
Maybe
codes.
We should explain what kratom is. Oh, sorry, but I interrupted you.
I was just saying I was looking for coupon codes, and I was surprised at the amount of podcasts that I put in the category of like, this is a more like, conservative-y podcast, even though, not like alt-right Rush Limbaugh type of thing. But Adam Carolla, you would put it in that category more. He's got like Candace Owens on and Ben Shapiro and stuff. So that's like more like right-leaning, if anything. But when I saw that there's kratom ads for that, and I think another couple ones, I'm like, oh, weird, it's at that level, because those ones don't even advertise CBD, I don't think, but they do advertise dick pills. There's Blue Chew. They advertise the other one, the one that like not the one that gets you erect, the one that makes you last longer. So it's like gets you erect, last longer, and then CBD to just like be completely out of it. But and kratom on the thing too. So I thought that had meant it's legit, but you're saying the FDA is cracking down on it. So kratom, for people that don't know, is like it comes from the coffee plant, or it's like a relative of the coffee plant, and it acts on your opioid receptors, but it doesn't cling to them the way that synthetic opioids do, or whatever. It
mimics opiates. It's not an opiate. Yeah.
So it's less addictive.
It's like a partial opiate. What's that word? Antagonist or
endogenous? Non-endogenous? Non-endogenous neurotransmitters. Well, it's not a question of whether it's endogenous or non-endogenous. It's a question of what that word is. Because is it antagonistic, or is it anthrotropic, or is it even non-ontological, which means it doesn't even take place within anything in our ontologically, which is everything. Everything is ontology.
I was in Dallas, Texas, and I had a guy propose to his lady on stage.
Nice.
Before my show, because he heard me talk about kratom, and it saved their life,
cool.
Whatever they had heroin problems. They seemed like they were still, had some progress to be made, but in their
with their injury or awesome. With their relationship.
Just like they seemed a little. They were very well. There's a lot of nerves that night. I don't know. It was just. It was an interesting experience. Have you ever had anyone propose at a show?
No, I'm not there yet.
I'm not there yet.
No, I feel like if you're Kevin Hart or something, it's happening.
Put it on your vision board. One day I want someone to propose it. I mean, I can see, I've had people that just happened to, like, people that I don't even think they knew who I was, but just were on a first date at one of my shows and had a nice time, and then things worked out for them. And so anytime I'm in town, they come to my show as like, almost like an anniversary-ish sort of thing.
Can I tell a quick story about this? Where I was hired to play a birthday party of, no, it wasn't a birthday party. It was an anniversary, I think, of a husband of wife, as anniversaries are, or of a wife and wife, or of a husband and husband, or of a other word that encompasses everything I forgot, and other person, every term I forgot. Imagine every term that can fit in within everything. I'm trying to be historically relevant. Replace any word I want. Replace any word I've ever said with the appropriate word in the time, like as times change. Yeah. So I'm culturally relevant. The point of that was the birthday anniversary performing at the show, and I was the surprise, and the wife didn't know that, and she thought it was going to be a car. And then when it was revealed that I was the surprise, like a comedy show, because they were on their first, because their first date was at a comedy show. Then, and I wasn't even the comic they saw. It's funny, just any comic to remind them of the show. And there was a painted brick wall behind it and everything. But she still took it well. She wasn't mad, but it was like, oh, I thought it was going to be the Nissan. Huh. And then I'm just standing there. I'm like, oh, well. And for the next 30 minutes, here's jokes about dicks and Sprite.
Dicks and Sprite. Which, by the way, if you're a Patreon member, at a honey tier, you can get both Ramin's special from 2013.
2012, I think.
2012, yeah. And the only existing recording of my Good Trip. There's only one ever recorded. It was for the documentary Psychonautics, but you can see the whole thing on Patreon. I did a birthday show once outdoors. It was in Massachusetts, and there was a kind of like a Boston edgy, I say what I want kind of comedian. Nice guy. I'm trying to think of what his name even was. Tim something, and funny enough too. And I was newer, but it was this outdoor. The guy made a fortune off of those, like, you go to a baseball game at like Fenway or whatever, and people have the little carts outside selling hot dogs and whatnot.
He's a hot dog millionaire?
Yeah.
Slum hot dog millionaire?
Yeah. And so what exactly happened? So it was, I was going first, and then he was going second, and then there was a headliner, Stephanie Peters, I think is her name. Funny. So
it's funny hearing of comedians that like, because I've known like two Stephanie Peters before, and then when you said that, I know it's not the comedian one, it's just a different one, but I'm like,
she's an older lady.
No, it's just common
like, name. It's like anyway, kind of like Roseanne or something. And she's so anyhow, I go up first. It's not an ideal situation with it being outdoors and everything. I'm not a seasoned comic. It goes okay. And then Tim gets up, and I think that's his name. And he does this, he's doing well. And I'm standing by the hosts of the party, like the lady who the party was for, and it's all their families there and everything. And Tim goes, he has this joke about when they say dying doing what you loved or whatever, someone doing that. Something about the joke goes, well, if I'm going to die doing what I love, I'm going to be doing this and coke and banging then falling into a pool and drowning. It's a whole thing, but it ends with like falling in a pool and drowning or whatever. And then the woman whose house it was, who this whole party and show was for, turns to me. She goes, my father just drowned in a lake. Like, that's why we're having this thing this is the first, get together and try to, let's have some laughs with a comedy show.
Oh, no.
It was, I mean, you got to give people a heads up. You got to say, hey, careful with any drowning jokes because this happened.
Yeah.
Just a heads up to all the comics on the show.
Yeah, it's not that big of a list. Give us something. Just write the profanities that aren't good and the topics, and then we'll just sit there and improvise and say, what do you do?
So back to kratom quickly. The last time I took kratom, I was in this documentary about kratom that is
Going Green,
called
the Green Mile.
A leaf of faith.
Oh, there we go. Even better.
Yeah.
A leaf of faith.
That certainly was on Netflix. It might still be. And I had mentioned kratom on Rogan because I was injured at the time, and then they had seen that and reached out to me, and that's how all these people. So I got associated with kratom because I happened to be taking it for this small sliver of a time, and I have talked to a couple people about it that I like academics that have taken a bit of a look, and it does seem like, you know, a good, safe alternative. For me, it seemed like it had some addictive properties, like withdrawal, getting like a real short fuse.
Oh, you get irritable?
Really irritable. But you couldn't, like an opiate, like pain pills, which I've had, you can just keep popping those suckers. Whereas kratom, I could never get it twice in a day, or very rarely. So you couldn't just like keep taking it. So I'd always have to reserve it for when I needed it. And for me, it was euphoric. I did a white, which is, so there's a bunch of different kinds. You'd want to go online, test a few, get a sample or something like that. Not that I'm recommending this, but if you were going to do it, like get something more reputable than just seeing it at a gas station, I would say. I think that's fair. I'm into harm mitigation, you know. I don't like to tell people what to do or whatever. Just a couple tips.
And I have no idea about what it really, like, what its interactions. I hear
there can be some like liver issues with it or whatever. You know, do research. I don't. Fuck if I know. I wouldn't take any advice from me on kratom one way or another. Especially with the life that I've lived, and I have a propensity for addiction, but I never felt that addicted to it. And then, but yeah, I would feel euphoric from it. The last time I had it, last year, I tweaked my back, playing pickleball, and it just was, when it happened, I was like, ooh, I didn't even stop playing. I kept on going. I was like, well, that was like something popped there or something. And then like 5 hours later, my back just really started hurting. And I was like, is this the chair that I'm sitting in? And then it just kept on, just nerve pain, just kept on shooting through my body. And I was like, oh, it must have been the back tweak. And it was pretty unbearable. I tried to go to sleep it off. Couldn't sleep all night. Woke up in the morning and I was like, what do I have in the old toolkit that I haven't dipped into, that I just opened up my bag of miscellaneous drugs? I was like, ooh, kratom. And took kratom. Not immediate. When it kicked in, it like worked, total relief. And then I had like a week of using all the kratom that I had and had some fun with it and everything else. And then just didn't buy any more when I was done. So that's a personal report of what happened. I don't know if anything bad happened to my liver or whatever, but that's some kratom info for you. Do whatever you want with it.
I think it should definitely be legal and unregulated. And maybe I already feel like that about all the substances, but especially this one, because if it's getting people off heroin and it's just so much more of a milder like how many deaths does it have? Zero? Probably
0.
Nothing, or maybe like, well, your urine might be a little darker than normal, so you might want to drink an extra 4 ounces of water. Otherwise, you're going to continue to see that discolorate, or rather, coloration of your urine. The smell also, it might have a stronger smell. If you want to bring in a sample you can bring it to the office. You can bring it down to my house. Let me get you that address right here. All right, so bring that sample down to my house, and just keep getting that urine colored.
Boy, there's just something about that doctor I just really trusted. Was it his voice? Or
how many people fall for just confident voice? Like, you're probably thinking I'm a quack. I used to think that about YouTube doctors too. But then I tried this new system, and in the light of the recent pandemic, I thought that there's, no way you can be too healthy. And I found how to be too healthy. Come with me. I'll show you a little something. Then
I have this idea. I wonder if I did share it on a bonus episode, but regardless, we're going to explore it again. I have this idea about how doctors are kind of, you know, in the way that a comedian can kind of get hijacked by their own audience and end up having to pander to them too much, and they kind of become biased because it's like, well, this is the thing that works, and
yeah, it's what they want. Don't alienate your base.
Yeah, and with doctors, there's so much, you know, doctors get rated, doctors get complained about by patients, and we're all just like becoming pickier and pickier customers, you know? We're all just becoming more Karens, like, as technology and everything improves, we have higher and higher expectations, we have more complaints, we want to talk about them on Yelp. Oh, can you do the impression of the Yelp review where they set the stage?
What?
You know, you did this once, just riffing in a team meeting where you talked about your favorite negative Yelp review is when they set the stage for the evening. They like really build it up. I don't know. You were just riffing.
Yeah. I mean, let's see. I mean, the gist of it is basically the Yelp reviewer that just immediately starts saying like, it was my fiance's birthday, and I wanted to give him the perfect evening. We'd been together for 8 years, and we have very little arguments, if you even want to call them that. And we're both extreme foodies, and we just love to go out, and it had been a while since we had gone out. I thought that this place would look good from the pictures I saw, and then just goes on and on and on. But then, until our server approached our plate and just did not have a smile on it. And normally I would not... and none of that sounds that funny, but maybe just the fiance part is funny. If you could just filter out any review that says my fiance in it, it's probably not a good review. If they're like, my fiance and I just had to try this place and we're disappointed greatly in the lack of service provided.
It's just so dramatic. I think we've all read that review on Yelp, and it's just such, the build up of it and everything. It's just like, oh my God. But doctors have to deal with that. Like, scientists don't have to deal with that patient or telling a patient what they want to hear. Yeah. Like the last foot doctor that I had, and after I think my last appointment, he was just like, he said something. I was like, will that work? And he was like, if you believe it'll work, it'll work. And I'm like, well, then I don't believe it.
Do you remember what the thing was?
No.
It's just an outrageous thing.
I mean, there is interesting... one of my favorite placebo studies is the heart surgery one, which is there was some... there was some heart surgery. They couldn't tell if whatever like pacemaker or valve thing that they're putting in, they couldn't tell if it was improving or not. It was getting such mixed results, and so they studied it. And so they had a group that they didn't do anything. They had a group that they did the surgery, and then they had a group where they cut people open under anesthesia and then just sewed them back together and didn't touch anything. And
catch and release.
Catch and release.
Yeah, surgeon fishing. So when we cut the fucker open and just seal him back up. It's Brooklyn surgery guy. Purchase a shirt of Brooklyn surgery guy today for the low price of $29.50.
You have at least 6 doctors in your repertoire that are all very untrustworthy.
Yeah, I'm starting to not trust doctors.
But there's
doctors are just people that went to medical school, man. They're just people that went to school and studied. They don't know anything. They're just humans like us that went to school and worked in hospitals. And they're just people that read books and did studies.
There's so the catch and release surgery patients, those ones had the best results. So it was in fact the case that monkeying around with their heart in this particular surgery, not, this isn't to say that no heart surgery is good, this was this particularly fickle one, was doing more harm than good. But the placebo effect, so the placebo effect works more the more you believe it. So well studied that the larger the pill that you give someone, that's the sugar
bigger the
pill,
headache, the bigger the pill.
The more they believe that it's working, you know, because it's just like more to choke down. They're like, I want to. It's basically like if you go, there's something in your brain. Your brain's always rationalizing your decisions. So if you do something ridiculous, there's a part of your brain that's kind of like, well, I didn't do that for nothing.
Yeah.
You know, that there must have been a good reason I just swallowed that golf ball size pill, even if it's just sugar. And there's something about that that just enables the body to heal itself better. It's probably like a lot of relief from chronic stress, you know, and a feeling of control and predictability that allows the immune system to take over and it to delegate more energy to the immune system. I don't know enough about it, but that being said, doctors are so like the placebo is different than, say, snake oil, where you're selling someone that doesn't work. Like, placebo effects are real and they are helpful. Even on top of real medicine that works, there's additional placebo effects. I think this was psychedelics quite a bit too.
Yeah.
And much of life, in my opinion, is about finding the placebo that works for you. And most doctors, you're having someone come in and you're seeing them for such a short amount of time, and you can't get a full sense of things. And a lot of what the best thing a doctor can do for a patient is leave them feeling optimistic, you know, really. And whether that's happening subconsciously or whatever else, also, they've studied lawsuits in hospitals, and doctors that performed a surgery correctly and well, but weren't very likely, are more likely to get sued than doctors that screwed up but were well liked by the patients.
So if they're just an unlikable personality, that's the criteria in which they were sued?
Yeah.
So if you're like young, handsome doctor or something, then it's like, well, he'd like accidentally put my appendix inside my heart, but look at that jaw.
Yeah. It's more like, well, this happens with therapy too, where patients want to, you know, they won't be getting much out of a certain therapy session, but they're like, well, this therapist is trying so hard. So people go, yeah, that's really helpful. And you probably shouldn't do that. You should probably, if your therapist isn't helping you, you should probably tell them that, because they can make some adjustments or refer you to somebody else.
Doesn't Nick Thune have a joke about like going to the therapy and never telling her the actual problem, and just like convincing her that he's making progress, but it's fake progress every week? Like, you're inventing these fake problems to solve each time and paying money to tell fictions. I might be butchering it entirely, but
yeah, because you kind of have to come up with, every time I'm going to be in therapy, I'm like, well, what am I going to talk about today? Because you feel like, if I'm paying for this, I better use my time. I better get my money's worth. So with that being said, I think that doctors are slightly more likely to kind of be accommodating to. I was trying to figure out how some doctors end up being like, iffy about like, say certain they tend to fall a little more into conspiracies in like ways that you wouldn't expect. Nurses, especially,
because they're like high in openness. Their openness is off the charts, yet they still went to medical school because they had high conscientiousness. They were organized. They could study. They could remember things. And they get along with their classmates, so they become great doctors. But the problem is their openness is just, my God, man. It's like touching the sky. It's like touching Zeus from what Joseph Campbell would call the analysis of the Greek mythologies of, oh no, I've lost my ability to articulate ideas. It's going away now. No, I can't do the voice anymore. No,
by
it's
the way,
become
next
Mickey
week,
Mouse.
next week on Mind Under Matter, we're talking about the Big Five personality indicator that Ramin was just referring to, and doing the whole test. Is actually, we already recorded it. It's such a fun episode that we pushed it back and put this one in because we even recorded a bonus episode. So it's a two-part thing. But yeah, so I think that I kind of forget exactly what I was going, but the interesting thing about scientists is they just don't have to, I mean, yeah, they can be influenced by a lot of other factors, but they don't have to care about the person in the study. You know, they don't have to be accommodating to their needs or anything else. And so there's just like, so
as opposed to an entertainer, a politician.
Yeah. And doctors kind of fall in the middle there where sometimes I feel like, cause if you do see, like today, Facebook message, like, look at this, doctor said this about the vaccine, dug up something that they didn't research themselves, of course, because I find it, and they just screenshot the same thing everyone else had screenshot. And it was like an MD or whatever. So you can always dig up some doctor somewhere that will like peddle whatever nonsense. And I mean,
there's people that fall for even. People will fall for if you just put ominous piano music behind talking about your particular conspiracy, like that'll influence people. Just the music alone, and then you add the MD and the other stuff. But also, who knows? There's multiple timelines. Maybe they're right. Maybe the reality split, and they are actually living in an actual reality where that's true. But we're also living in an actual reality where what they're saying is not true, and they both exist simultaneously. Like if it were a type 9 or 10 civilization, or even a type 11 civilization, or, oh, check this out, oh, this is a type 12 civilization, oh, come back here, I've got like a whole garage full of civilizations, I've got like 8,000 civilizations, I've like civilizations filled with
runs
cars.
on universes. there's a Jay Leno civilization garage.
Yeah.
Just classic civilizations that he still made. This is just like for fun.
30,000 years ago, civilization where there weren't any cars, so I don't go there much. Can you imagine living before there was even one car? What would you do all day? I'd probably think about cars.
What would you do all day? I like that's the existential dread that Jay Leno.
I just imagine his wife being like, Jay, are you thinking about other women right now? And he's like, no, of course not. And then just in his head, a 1957 Cadillac Dupree 69 FM dual cylinder with a motor.
With a motor. That was such an impressive riff, and then with a motor. Anyway, you got some books you want to throw. What are you reading at the moment, or have you? We just did Sapiens last week.
I started on this one called Children of Time that Catherine recommended. I'm so early in on it, but the gist of it so far, the synopsis, is about a planet that's terraformed, and then they have this thing that they're experimenting that speeds up the evolution of DNA, and it accidentally spreads out to like insects and stuff. So it's like experimenting on what happens if their intellect or evolution thing like sped up really fast, and you're having to deal with that, which I recognize
that's fun.
Yeah, I recognize that, because evolution is so much your environment. So if you sped it up really fast, you would be too hyper specialized for your immediate surroundings, maybe, and then walking 12 feet away would maybe be too much for you because you're just so evolved to live here. But in like outside of that, it's interesting so far. I won't even want to say more because I'm just not even past the first couple of chapters. But I want to recommend. I've recommended Accelerando by Charles Stross a lot. I think I've talked about it every episode of something somewhere.
I've heard you talk about it, but I don't think on this show.
It's a Garf rec. Garfield got me turned on to it. And there's even an episode of us talking about it, and I hadn't even read it yet. And then he spread the virus to me, and now I bring up Accelerando a lot. And another fiction, but also like kind of life lesson one is The Music Lesson by Victor Wooten. And it just has so many great little philosophical wisdom bites, or whatever you want to call them. Bites sounds derivative, but for example, don't lose the groove to find the note. Like as a rule in music, if you miss the thing you're trying to play, don't go back and try to correct yourself. That stops the whole everything. So you just always stay in the groove. If you make a mistake, then you move along with it. And whatever, silence is part of music. I got to remember the other rules for life. It's like 12 rules for life, but musically applied and like nature-y, that kind of thing. It's really good. Easy read too. Also, Gödel Escher Bach is a really trippy math and puzzle sort of experimental idea thing where it talks about Bach, talks about Gödel, talks about Escher, and it's got Achilles and the tortoise, and they go on little adventures like Rocky and Bullwinkle, but they're like super mathematically trippy things. I'm not even that big of a math guy, and it's good.
I kind of want to get back into math. I kind of want to start starting with Algebra 1 and knocking the rust off and getting into, I would like to at least do some low-level calculus
2
stuff.
plus x equals 3. What is x? Welcome to Algebra 1.
Yeah. But
low-level calculus.
When you were mentioning music, which, by the way, there's a pretty good... Daniel Levinston is a neuroscientist and musician, and he wrote a book called This Is Your Brain on Music. I had him on Here We Are, like the first year of Here We Are. I wasn't a very competent host at the time, but...
I remember that.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's parts of that I remember.
Yeah.
And that... trying to remember if I actually read the book though.
It was a lot of your brain responding to expectations and surprise and that sort of thing. But I was going to ask you, your hair's getting like more emo by the minute. I'm
so emo.
I feel like.
When we said I went on a date and I wanted to fight.
That's gonna the best part about this is if this is
hey,
a highlight.
Mom, there's something in the back room. Hope it's not the creatures from above. Is it good for the thumb?
That was a pretty solid song. Hey, Mom, there's something in the back room. There is some couple that does... There's this guy on Instagram, Matt something, and they're a very attractive couple that are also good improvisers, and he does this emo character that's very, very good. Can't think of it, but some listeners will know they're quite popular. It is. I guess we'll plug some. They're a real attractive couple. It's almost like annoying. Matt Cutshall, and it's like the cutesiest comedy I've ever enjoyed.
Cutshall.
Cutshall, yeah.
Another guy, he think he wouldn't like me. Another guy, he think he wouldn't fight me. That's just all the Blink 182. What is that? Not Dude Ranch. Enema of the State.
So when you were talking about the music book, I was wondering, how comfortable are you with silence? Because my relationship has changed over time with my easiness with it.
Extremely intimate.
Yeah.
Extremely comfortable with silence at the most. Well, actually, maybe I'd give myself a 4, because 5 is you go to the silent retreat. No, because silent retreats are for people that need the silence, and I live the truth of it. No, I'm totally good with silence. Like sitting in the car with, 3 hours, not a word spoken, but still comfortable. Excelencia, silence in the house, also Valencia Orange, just all silence good. So you're saying you weren't good with it before, and now you're good with it?
No, I was. I mean, well, how are you like doing stand-up? Let's say, yeah, you have like excellent use of
during
silence.
that, yeah, my shot clock got really good. At first, like it was way more neurotic, where your shot clock is like, if you're not getting a laugh for 5 seconds, you squirm. You're like, but then you try to do another joke, or you try to be like, well, at least I'm not that shirt. That shirt's like kind of dumb. And you just, melt in front of everyone. But if you just stay there, even if you're not bombing, silence like helps build up the confidence, the pacing, the just joke kind of has this insecurity to it. But also not everybody can be Tig either. Like Tig is the master of like, sitting for, not even sitting down, but, sitting in the silence for 15 seconds, then saying another word. And then the joke written out, it's maybe 2 sentences, but she stretches it out for a minute and it still works. It still like serves the punches of it. But not everyone can do that and have it be effective. Or Todd Barry. Todd Barry also has a little
Todd Barry's great.
Yeah.
When I started, I was great at it. It was like one of my strengths. And I think because I just didn't care enough. And I got used to, right away, I accepted that I'm going to bomb a lot. And accepting that fully made me not bomb nearly as much as I probably would have otherwise. But I was excellent with silence, caught breaks, got on the road, and then I became less comfortable over time. Because there's people yell stuff on the road. Like, you can't have that Tig pregnant pause with like real drunk rowdy assholes. You can have it on your Netflix special, sure, but it's a little hard to do.
They have to really trust you.
Yeah,
because some audiences, like, they might have a propensity to be rowdy, but they can be transmuted, but it's just a harder Rubik's Cube or whatever to crack. But
because there's like Dave Waite can't handle silence. Like, if we're hanging out, not just me and him, but like with anyone, it's part of what's hilarious about him, because there's something, how I feel like each of us have a certain set of uncomfortable buttons where,
as comics or as the three of us, what group are you talking about?
Yeah, just as comics, but certainly myself, where there's a certain number of variables in the environment that bring about some level of anxiety that's just perfect and makes my brain, like, as out of self-defense, say something that's, clever or funny or whatever. And it needs to be just the right circumstance. Well, Dave is like that with silence. Like he just can't handle being around a few people. And so he says, he says the funniest shit if silence happens. And all right, Dave, wait. Once I heard this story of once he was Nate Craig, funny.
Oh,
comic.
He's so funny.
Yeah.
What's his album called? Too. His album called like Platinum Member or Gold Member. No, I forget what it's called, but he's a great stand-up.
I don't know. I haven't heard it, but yeah, he's a great stand-up. He's an awesome dude. Another Wisconsinite, actually, and he would have these 4th of July parties, and everyone would be tripping or whatever. And you walk from his house down to the beach to get the fireworks. If someone came back early and Dave didn't feel like walking to the fireworks, he's on acid or whatever. And I guess he was just in Nate Craig's like yard by himself on acid, just going, Dave White, saying his own name.
It's like a Westworld host that wanders too far and is just running through its loops, but there's no one interacting with it.
Yeah.
Doesn't he have a joke about, his joke was about to kiss a girl, and he's so uncomfortable with silence that midway to the kiss, he just goes, woo! Some version of that.
I gave so
this
Dave
is too
Waite,
much. Emo is tough. I wanted to
Emo
keep it
is
going,
tough.
but it like gets inside of your eyeball, so no more emo here for today. Actually, it's still kind of emo. All right, we keep going.
Dave Waite is like a very self-aware dirtbag uncle.
Very
basically, is his
uncle-y,
character.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
And,
uncle-y.
hey, Squirt, you gonna go see the dead with me? Like a cool uncle that like has cherry bombs in his muffler of his Camaro or whatever, and has.
I'm
like
surprised he's not in movies.
He needs to be. He's such a character.
You know the way like Zach Galifianakis, like I know it's just two bearded guys. I'm not making it the comparison because they have beards. We all have beards now. It's the way it is. The beards are contouring for men. We don't wear makeup yet. Actually, the younger generation does wear it now, I think. But we don't wear makeup, but we contour our face using facial hair. But the way Zach Galifianakis was, he was known in the comedy community, but then The Hangover made him a megastar. So like maybe there'll be a perfect Dave Waite vehicle one day that everyone's just going to be walking around like that one day.
Yeah, he's got like a real dad bod. I guess he's been getting into pickleball lately, and he makes a lot of noises and grunts and stuff. It's hard to describe Dave without being like, well, this guy sounds dumb the way you're describing him.
No, he's the best.
Not dumb.
Yeah,
he's the best.
This clip is going to be isolated and
he's super witty. He's one of my best friends in the world. He's absolutely hilarious. He's really he makes awesome points about life constantly. He's a great stand-up.
Biggest dick in the West.
But he makes a lot of grunts. it's an interesting dichotomy. He grunts a lot. He makes a lot of noises. It's like a thing of his on stage. Zip, zap. Oh, all right. Okay. And he, the first time I gave him DMT, comic Grant Lyon. Want to hit me with it?
Oh, Grant Lyon, brop. Reggaeton.
Grant Lyon has a cabin that we went out to, and a bunch of us bros. Oh my gosh, this was is this the same night that this happened? Oh man, I just want to tell Dave Waite stories.
This just morphed into like we're talking about our favorite books and stuff. It's like, but a better book would be this one that doesn't exist yet about Dave Waite. The story of Dave Waite.
Well, we knew we were going to go off in a zillion different directions.
Yeah.
When does that not
We're
happen?
both like bringing up Old Man and the Sea. Like for my book report, I have read Old Man and the Sea. Old Man and the Sea is man's struggle with nature, but also his struggle with himself, his inner nature. And watch how these two things play out in the following 12 pages. Please give me a C+.
Himself, his inner nature. That's a good device to re-articulate the thing that everyone already knows what you're talking about. That's perfect book impression of a book report, saying the exact same thing in 5 different ways to fill those lines.
Book reports are like excellent political training, I think. Like, because some people interpret longer speaking about a subject as more knowledge about the subject. I think we've talked about this before. And I recognize the irony.
I don't think so.
Oh, just like if you describe something for 5 minutes, it's like, oh, they're very knowledgeable about it, but perhaps everything they said in that 5 minutes is a little off. Or perhaps their starting thing was off, so they've described the wrong thing. Or you're just making the circular. So like basketball is like a game played with it's like a spherical object, often made of rubber. The colors of basketball can vary. They often can. They often can vary from different colors. The most common color, which you probably know, is the orange-colored basketball. But in my experience, I've seen yellow basketballs. I've seen black basketballs. I've seen basketballs that glow even in the dark. It's really incredible, some of the things we're seeing. And then, so I've been talking about basketball, but I didn't really say much about the thing. I just talked about it for a while. I don't like that example that much, but there's something to it. I think the listeners know what I mean when someone is like, you know, isn't there a whole word for it? Isn't that what mansplaining is? It's when like dudes are very quick to jump in and be like, well, you know, the way the Senate works is that they, you know, convene for, and meanwhile they know nothing about it, but they just wanted to like chime in. So.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm guilty of explaining quite a bit. I'm trying to see that week.
What are you looking up?
I'm trying to ask Dave. Hold on. We'll see if he writes back. So anyway, the first time I gave Dave DMT, which most people are incapacitated, but the first time I gave it to him, he had a breakthrough. He sits back and he's silent for a little bit, and then he's just like and he starts like moving his arms around like he's controlling things in the air. He's like and then after a while he just goes zip. And he goes zap. Like he found the spot in his mind where zips and saps come from. It was
he peeked behind the curtain. He found the source.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So
that's a once in a lifetime experience there, to have been there to see the zip zap.
I actually liked it. I'm going to tell another story, and we'll see about wrapping up, because I actually really liked the way that this went. I thought maybe we'd get to a couple questions, but we were going to feel it out anyway. We talked about some books.
We talked about stories.
Have I told the story of when Dave decided the dad thing that he went through?
What was his dad thing?
Such an eventful night. I wonder if I'm mixing multiple cabin nights together.
No, as a storytelling rule, you got to combine them. Delete the extraneous characters, and make yourself taller.
I think all this might have happened in the same night. But so we go up to, it's like near Big Bear, kind of, Grant's cabin. And we go up there. So Dave and I lived together at this time for months. He got on this kick. So we're like best of friends of that. And he got on this kick anytime, we pull up to 7-Eleven or whatever for Dave to get us cigarettes. He never buys more than one pack at a time, even though he goes through like a pack a day. It's a whole thing. And
it's part of his ritual to just go buy the individual pack instead of saving like 200%.
And every time he saw someone that looked kind of like a dad, he'd be like, "Oh, that's a dad right there." If it was someone like dressed like Sapolsky, like denim tucked into denim or something like that, he'd be like, "Oh, that guy's dad as fuck," and just like a look of like, and so he was really just obsessed with honing his dad-dar. And he talks a lot about his dad and his mom, and so he does like these great impressions of Midwestern parents and stuff. And then over time, he started accusing everyone around the house of acting like dads.
Nothing wrong with that.
If you said like, "Hey, who's gonna wash the dishes there? Whose dishes are these?" And Dave would be like, "Oh, you're being a real dad right now. Being a real dad."
Well, you need a spanking, young man.
He got on this kick. He wouldn't stop. He was like, he's accusing everyone of acting dad like all the time, as if that was about like making fun of them for that. Like, "You're no fun. You're being a dad right now." And then we're at this cabin. We're on mushrooms. We're all hanging out, and Dave's regaling us with a story. And there's just this moment where I saw him. I had this kind of visual of this storybook opening with him at the center, like in front of a fireplace, like telling his children a story. And I was like, "Oh, Dave, you're the dad." Like, you've been projecting. And he's like, "What? Oh, I'm the dad? Oh, no. I've been a dad my whole life."
That's the movie. The movie is the movie where the audience knows the ending, but the main character doesn't know the ending.
And then he started... So then he had this box of polos that a dad had sent him that his dad had found him at a rummage sale, and they were like $0.25 a piece or something. So his dad mailed him this. And when they first arrived, he's like, "Look what my dad sent me." Got him at a rummage sale. He's making fun of him. And then after he had the dad revelation, one day, Steve Gillespie and I, we were on acid in the living room. So this is the same house that we live at. And Dave comes out and he's like looking very unsettled, and we don't know if he's uncomfortable because we're on acid and he's not. But he's getting ready for a show, and he's just anxious, and he keeps on going in and out of his room. He's making uncomfortable conversation, and finally he comes out with one of the polo shirts on. And he's like rubbing his belly, and he's like, "Hey, I think I got it, kids." and since then he's been exploring his daddom. Well, here's the grand finale story from that evening in the cabin. My friend Jake Baker's up there, and we're listening to, who sang "Fire and Rain"?
Not Earth, Wind, and Fire.
And I've seen rain.
Oh,
Pearl
Jam?
No.
Is it that type of thing? Because I don't really know the song you're talking about. Stone Temple Pilots. Alice in Chains.
James Taylor.
Oh, James Taylor. That makes way more sense.
Yeah, and so we listen to the song, and Jake's like, "Do you know what this song is about?" I'm like, "Uh-uh." And he goes, James Taylor, his wife or his girl or whatever, his friends wanted to surprise him because he is on tour, and he like, was burning out. His friends wanted to surprise him, so they flew in his girlfriend, and she died on that plane. The plane crash.
No,
she died, and then because he was on tour, they didn't tell him for like weeks. Like, he missed the funeral and everything. And then after he found out, he ended up going into an insane asylum. And this is a song that he wrote that like got him out of the psych ward. And so we listened to the song again. We're all on mushrooms. And we're listening to it. And we're just bawling. All of us, just a bunch of dudes just bawling, having a real moment.
Because you knew the story? Or because...
because we knew the story.
Does the song articulate the story, or is it like you have to really know it?
You have to really know it.
I mean, it's probably not verbatim.
The plans they made put an end to you. And there's like stuff like that within it, and it all kind of works with the I've seen fire, I've seen rain, I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end. I've seen lonely times when I could never find a friend, but I've always thought I'd see you again. And so we're just like bawling, listening to this song on mushrooms, having just heard that story. Looked it up the next day, it's not true. Not a true. It's not a true thing.
I heard. This is a friend, a close friend of a friend. So like 2 clicks away from me, I guess. However you want to describe it. A type 4 civilization, whereas I am a type 2 civilization. But they bought their parents a hot air balloon ride for their anniversary, and guess what? And that's crazy because like you think a hot air balloon is not safe, but then you're like, I never heard of anyone dying, and it's probably one of those things that you think is dangerous, but there's only one accident every 1,000 years or something, and like the last one was over 2,000 years ago. We're just talking an average of like the last 1,000,000 years of hot air ballooning, which has been around for much longer than you think. It actually predates the wheel. When you look at ancient civilizations, they actually found out ways to heat up the air inside of what they would call ballon, which was where they would sleep. And they would float across continents, which is how we ended up, in the Americas, how we ended up in Australia, originating all of us from Africa, of course. But we've even spread out as far as Antarctica, which is insane considering the result of such primitive technology. But yeah, their parents died in a hot air balloon thing, and that's wild. Like, so I never want to buy anyone anything, like even a knife. I won't buy you a knife.
Maybe hot air balloons aren't all that safe. It's just that not that many people take hot air balloon rides. So yeah, you don't hear about the deaths very often, but it's still like 1 in 100 hot air balloon flights end in a fiery death. But there's only 1,000 flights a year.
Yeah,
or something like
there's not enough to collect the data.
Yeah. I remember my girlfriend who's a veterinarian who you knew, she
hey beep!
she had a client that bought their dad skydive for his like 50th birthday or something like that, and went to watch and recording it on video, and then just got to record their father falling to his death.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's like in Free Solo, the guy's friend, what's his name? James or Jimmy or Justin or something. I think it's Jimmy. I don't remember,
but that's a fantastic movie.
Yeah, his other friend who's also a climber, I think, and director of the film, was just having to watch him the whole time and being like, oh, am I going to watch my friend just fall to his death because he's free soloing this thing he's never free soloed before.
Yeah.
But he did intense. It though. Or no, sorry, spoiler alert. But you can deduce that he's alive. You would have heard that he died if he died climbing the thing. But there's still moments of failure during the movie. So you should still check it out if you want your palms to sweat. If you're like, my palms are extra dry right now and I'm about to go to a business meeting that I don't want the business to go through, so I need palms to be very sweaty. I need mom's spaghetti. Watch Free Solo and your palms will sweat like 8 Mile.
Did you say mom spaghetti?
Yeah, mom spaghetti, like arm sweaty.
Isn't it mine spaghetti? My mind spaghetti?
I thought it's arm sweaty, his shirt's something, mom spaghetti. Like, because he threw up, like, write it. Arm sweaty, nerves bloody. I don't remember his arms sweaty, his nerves bendy, throwing up his mom's spaghetti. There's someone made a YouTube one where it
is mom spaghetti. I thought it was some reference to freestyling.
What's
like,
the lyric?
My mind is spaghetti, like tangled.
No. What is the lyric though? You pulled it up. What is it? His arms sweaty.
Know.
I mean, people listening right now have known the answer for 5 minutes. They're like, Jesus, move on from the Magetti.
You think they're like, move on? I think they're enjoying listening to the struggle.
Oh, okay, good.
Enough already with the spaghetti.
What's the lyric? Palms sweaty. Nerves, Jedi, Volkswagen Jetty, Star Wars, Return of the Jedi.
What part of the song is this?
Search "Lose Yourself" lyrics. It should just come up there in the first couple of bars.
It's in the first couple bars?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom spaghetti.
Yeah, actually has the word vomit. Go. Vomit on his sweater already, mom spaghetti. That's such a creative line. Which is why, he's
Eminem.
He's so
Eminem
good.
Is pretty damn good.
Oh, yeah.
I will say, for the problematic issues that some people would rightfully have for not liking some of his stuff. I wonder what was the album
because he beats Kim or something. Just the general stuff
ago. Yeah, like obviously pushing buttons and stuff. Yeah. There was this. What's the album that I was so impressed by?
And I don't think he actually beat Kim or whatever the wife's name is. I think it was just like in the cartoon version of the rhymes of like, I'll throw a truck up your fuck and shock your fuck. Take my ex-wife Kim and shove a truck up her fucking truck. That's like a worse even than the Chris D'Elia one. Which Chris D'Elia had a really funny Eminem impersonation. But
rest
also
in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. Who did I tell you that, or Kaplan told you that? Like whenever someone gets canceled, you just say rest in peace after their name. I think Kaplan said that.
There's I think it's the Revival album. Anyway, one day it occurred to me, was it the Marshall Mathers 2013? So he did one in 2017 and one in the Kamikaze in 2018. And whatever it was, one day I was like, I wonder what Eminem's been up to. And the first part of the album, I started listening to it, and I was like, yeah, I guess I've aged out of liking Eminem. These raps are good, but it's not clever. It's just like boring shock value, like that doesn't do anything for me anymore. And then the rest of the album was him commenting on that very thing or like aspects of the album were, and I was like, holy shit,
I gotta tune into that. I dropped out for some reason after a while, not consciously, not like I'll never listen to another Marshall Mathers record again. It was more just like you drift away and you forget, and maybe the aggression also goes down, and it is a like very aggressive music as opposed to like Enya or something. Enya is not aggressive, but sometimes you're not in the mood for Enya, and sometimes you're not in the mood for Eminem. But together they form the complete porridge of a perfect baby bear edible medium porridge. So Enya, let's do a collab with Eminem now.
Yeah, very rarely do I find myself thinking I should revisit System of a Down. But I bet if I did, I'd be like, still very impressive.
Oh, yeah. Just for the harmonies alone. Artists. Such creative harmonies between the guys, and just the like freaky circus. I used to like them a lot. Yeah. They're trying to build
you get older, the hard...
dun, 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 dun. They're trying to build a prison.
Yeah, that's our book and music recommendations all in one episode. I was thinking the something to do with the library for the artwork. I thought I'd give people a teaser into what, after we're done recording, we debrief and then we try to come up with
that's fun.
Piece of episode art, and then we usually sit on it for a little while, and I run like 3 to 5 ideas by Ramin, and he runs a few ideas by me, and then we boil it down to like 2, and then sit on it for a day or so, and then one usually bubbles to the surface, and maybe we tweak a word or whatever. And usually my ideas are way more complicated than they need to be, and then Ramin boils it down to its essence, and usually takes a little bit of the cynicism out of it that I have in my ideas.
Just a quick extraction. It's too spicy for some of the people that come to the restaurant. We want to appeal to a more mainstream audience.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the complexity is good too. We wouldn't have gotten Rapunzel without it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think this is going to have something to do with piles of books or libraries of books or something.
Piles and piles of books.
Book reports.
That would be a fun store. Instead of books on shelves, you call your place Piles of Books. And then they're like, they must mean they have a lot of books. Yeah, and then you go and you can like...
literally a pile.
Will the books be damaged?
I think it's over in that pile.
Yeah.
You know, instead of, well, they have the shelves where they have each employee's recommendations or whatever, that they used to do in Blockbuster or whatever too, which was such a weird thing of like, oh, I wonder what Jim likes. Like, Jim is 16.
I wonder, like, would that be a funny image to have piles of books, the store? Like, it's kind of Far Side-esque, like they're just everywhere, and something more than that, though.
Piles of books. Well, there's
it's going to be in that pile
also
downstairs.
Something to do with book recommendations. Is kind of book report, because we referenced book reports quite a bit. There's something with there's something to do with when you get a book from someone, it's such a pain in the ass because now you're kind of expected to give a book report. When someone gives you a book for Christmas, it's like, God, now I have to read this thing or I'm not grateful. And it's not that I'm not grateful. It's not that I don't want to read it. It's just the mound of books that you have to read in life is just overwhelming.
Yeah, that's why you gotta be good at bullshitting about the topic. Like, you gotta be able to run off just the cover.
Yeah, it's
like make up a story about the cover.
People ask me how I prep for Here We Are, and it's usually I don't spend a lot of time reading someone's specific work. Usually, I spend most of my time, like taking a class or something like that, getting a broad, like knowing what their subject is. And starting at the 101 and then expanding my knowledge on that subject as much as I can. And then that gives me enough to be able to work with in enough domains. So I have like 101 to 102 knowledge in a whole bunch of domains. And that's enough to keep the conversation. And then just talking with enough scientists, you just learn the language after a while. But I would say that with a lot of pop science books, unlike, say, fiction books, a lot of popular science books, I would say within the first 3 chapters you can get a sense of, in a lot of books you can get a sense of what they're saying and what the lens is that they're trying to create for you. And then a lot of times the rest of the book is like, okay, now that we built that lens, let's apply it to this moment in history, and now this example and this thing. And so usually you can get away with reading the first few chapters and then like really getting the meat of the book out of that, and then skimming the rest and reading what interesting parts.
Did I ever tell you my dad reads books out of order, where he'll just skip between chapters and then pieces it together because He's bored unless he does that. And it infuriates my brother because he's like, no, this is my favorite book. You've got to read it from beginning to end. And he'll start at like chapter 17, then 6, then 8, and then...
That's how my parents watch TV. They
they jump around.
Like
House of Pain,
quite a bit.
Jump around.
Yeah. They'll see like the end of the show, and then the next week it's on again, so they catch the beginning of it, and then they piece together. They don't remember watching shows either, so it's also just like they have a HM kind of memory issue with shows because they're not terribly engaged in any of the stuff that they're watching.
It's a feature, not all the time.
Yeah,
unlimited new TV. Unlimited new TV for the price of one DVD. Because you just forget
I used
the
to
DVD.
watch TV, like I watch books, or like I read books where I'm sucked in. I'm like, I'm watching TV right now, therefore I'm concentrating. That's why I didn't... Here We Are was never a video podcast until COVID, because I was like, who in the world would watch a video podcast? Why would you do that? Because I was so used to, like, you watch every second of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh... people have it on in the background. You're doing other things, and you're crocheting or whatever else, and working on your art, and you're popping up from time to time to see the laugh or the expression or an act out or something.
We like to look at different faces of different sapiens. So I'll look up pictures of 100 different sapiens.
It's a very good impression. Which, by the way, I think it's a new, maybe episode 10 or something, listeners, there's a Mind Under Art. One of the most recent ones. It's Ramin's first time. We said it was his first time last week during this public, but he did a warm up on the Mind Under Art, and it's some real strong riffs. So if you like a good Yuval impression,
that was my first Yuval attempt. But yeah, it's always going to be on the Patreon, the first attempt.
Yeah, it was very good.
It's all gone downhill from here. Like the beginners, like you can build your way up back to a type 6 civilization, but after your first time doing an impression, you'll fall back to a type 3 civilization.
Well, it's also hard.
Imagine him at a nightclub or a bar, like just like talking to people, like, "Oh, look at over there, we've got a type 2 civilization."
Because I get to experience your impressions like the first few times and like crying, but then I'm like more attentive when you're doing them afterwards to like. I'm paying attention more, than just laughing at like the sound of the voice or whatever to see if there's like, I don't know. So yeah, it's a different experience over time, but it's not the same as getting to work on that impression and do it in front of a new audience each night. Like as stand up, it's a very different thing.
I want to be the Yuval guy, like Jim Gaffigan is the Hot Pockets guy. Selling out arenas. Thank you all for coming to the show. The impression has gotten worse over the years, and people still buy tickets because we like to gather in big cooperation with fiction. Now it's gone. Now I got to give it a rest.
So go to Patreon. If you want to hear more, we have more content on Patreon than the regular podcast. Not just like additional podcast. We have 5 things a month on Patreon. That's just recorded things, not to mention getting to play board games with me, not to mention getting to fund this show, which there's currently 4 people that work on this show, by the way. 2 people behind the scenes, and
one for flavor.
Brianna.
Yeah.
And and we're ad free because of your Patreon support. So we appreciate all you Voids, Visionaries, Honeys, and Comante de Bouffons. If you're a Comante de Bouffon long enough, by the way, we're going to make a Mum University diploma that has your name with Comante de Buffon after it, and it gets mailed to you, and you can frame it.
And we sign it, and it's got a gold seal on it.
Yep. All the things. So, gold seal. We should do a fun gold seal with it. All right. So now you got to hear a little bit of what our workshop is after we are recording. And so I hope you enjoyed this episode. This is super fun. We're going to try to do once a month episode where we take a Patreon suggestion and use it as the springboard for the conversation.
Yeah.
So thanks for all the support, everybody. Yeah.
Oh, I've been just trying to time it right so that I say until next time, because I feel like I've been stealing all the Salivatings this past month. So
I don't mind.
I'm trying to anticipate it. So if I hear you say the word "so," I'm just going to cut in and be like,
"So
until next time,
keep on salivating, honeys."